So we have Sarah Vanover, the mother of James. We have Lori Wilson, mother of Henry. And then we also have Jared Myers, father of Jax. Often, when we talk about autism, we're focusing on the origin of autism and why so many children are affected. Today, we're going to shift that slightly, and each of our guests have lived experience in the field and is here to talk about what it's like to raise a child with autism. So today we're going to start by getting to know our kiddos. I know as a parent, I love talking about my kid. So Sarah, can we start with you? Can you tell us a little bit about your son?
Yes, my son is James. He is 13 years old, so middle school, very exciting. He is got a huge vocabulary, extremely smart. He's really creative. He is a ballet dancer. Um, and yet at the same time, we have an extremely difficult time with transitions. We really like routines, and when we don't have the routine that we expect, it causes a lot of anxiety over new experiences. With that anxiety, we often see fight or flight. So at home, a lot of times we have the fight. If he is anxious or taken aback, surprised, then he gets really feisty and wants to scream and has some aggression. But when he is outside of the house and experiences that anxiety, we often see um, flight, or what we often call elopement. And so he was a runner for a really long time. In elementary school, he wore a GPS clip on his belt that I had an app on my phone that I knew where he was if he ran away. So we've had a variety of experiences there. He is definitely an outside the box thinker. And just if we tell him this is the way we have to do things, he's like, no, I don't really think we have to do it that way. He is extremely honest, and that can be fabulous, and that can be very gut wrenching. When I get up in the morning, I put on an outfit and say, "How do I look?" He's like, "They will think you look ugly if you wear that to work." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, gonna change clothes now." So that honesty is, things are just factual to him. It's either it is or it isn't. There's not a lot of in between. And sometimes that can be great because he has an honest opinion, and other times I wish I had a thicker skin. Um, but he does have buddies, and he has a small group of buddies that he feels comfortable with, but in large crowds, he's not always really comfortable with that group of people. So we have stuff that we're navigating every day, along with just the developmental fact that we are in middle school, and that's fun for everybody, no matter whether they are neurotypical or neurodivergent. So that's life at our house right now.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, Jared, can you introduce us to Jax? I mean,
Hey
I'm
everybody,
Sarah. Jared, can you introduce us to Jax?
this is Cam. Hey, how's everybody doing?
Hello.
So my son's name's Jax. He's 4 years old. He is nonverbal, but he loves to talk at the same time. He gets frustrated when you don't understand, but he will guide you around the house, the store, or anything like that, show you what he wants. He loves humming his favorite songs so much to the perfect tune that you can tell what the song is immediately. He loves holding hands and cuddling and his dogs. We have four big pit bulls that everybody's scared of, and they just flock around him, and he rides them like horses around the house. I have to keep getting him off of them. uh, he's very bright, and he's also very routine oriented. If something is he knows, he tells me when it's bath time. He also tells me when it's time that we all eat. He refuses to eat alone. If it's dinner time with him, it's dinner time with us. So uh he also is very STEM. He stems a lot, and very in tune with what he likes. He can tell you're not going to get a different brand of ramen noodles over him. You know what I mean? He wants top ramen, and that is it. Chicken, that is it. So he's not hard to please, but I don't know. I'm beyond blessed to have him. I just got granted sole custody of him a year ago, so it's just me and my little buddy. We're doing the things, and he definitely gives me a run for my money, though. So that's Jackson in a nutshell.
Thank you for that. I'm sure he's blessed to have you as well. Lori, can you tell us about Henry?
Yeah, so first I'll show you this. This is my sweet boy. This was before he was 6 feet tall. Henry is now 15 and he goes to high school in Lexington, where he is studying animal science and he loves a critter of all kinds. We actually played hooky on Monday to go to the zoo. Shh, don't tell. Um, he's very verbal and he is smart, but he is definitely developmentally delayed and probably socially more around a 9-year-old and academically maybe around a 12-year-old, 11-year-old or 12-year-old. Um, but humor wise, he could hang with the best comedians in the world. He's got great comedic timing. He can tell a joke and just nail it every single time. That's very appropriate for every one of you. So just get ready. He is that kind of guy. Henry has really, really big behaviors when things don't go his way, and typically that is stemmed by failure. He hates to fail in any way. He hates to fail if he's playing Connect Four and he fails. He hates to fail on his video games. He hates to fail against you, but he hates to fail against himself. Like he can be playing, something and drop something on the floor, and he's so mad at himself that he dropped something on the floor. So we see lots of hitting and hitting our head and hitting our head against the wall and a lot of self-shaming. And, it's really, really hard. He's been in ABA services for about 9 years now, and ABA has kind of been transformational for us to kind of get him in a good space where he can articulate his emotions probably better than most adults. But we're still working on actually regulating those emotions. He also has a big stem. He runs back and forth and jumps up and down a whole lot. And as I mentioned, he is 6 foot tall. So that's become a little bit more problematic than it was when he was a cute little, 6-year-old. Um, but he's learned as he's getting older again to self-advocate for himself and to ask for those times to STEM and to find the places that he can appropriately do it and understand that not every place is appropriate. Um, but he's just a really groovy kid. Like he's so fun. Unlike Sarah's little guy, he does not have friends. He has one buddy from middle school that he has just learned to text with, and they did not end up at the same high school. And so that's been really challenging for us because he doesn't really want to make friends and he doesn't want to get out of the house and he doesn't want to do anything except be with mom and dad. So we're working on that. But I think it's more heartbreaking for me than it is for him. So, um, you know, as as is most things with autism, I think it's like he's cool. He's cool. It's us trying to figure it out. So, but he's a great kid.
Thank you for that. I'm really glad that we started the conversation listening to those positive things because I know we're going to get into the challenges, and sometimes we just have to remember the good that comes along with that. So, thank you all for that. So, I'm guessing that you all had heard of autism before your children's diagnosis. What are some challenges that surprised you the most when your child got that diagnosis? And we'll start with Jared.
It's I wouldn't say that there was challenges when he got the diagnosis. It was as he got older and progressed, and it became more relevant that that was what it was. Being in public, I think it was mentioned earlier before this started, but being in public and people trying to correct his behavior is difficult for me because that is my child. He is also extremely friendly to the point of where he will want to go up and shake everybody's hands and stuff. And seeing people neglect attention to him or like look at him or me a certain way, like I need to control my child whenever you know what I mean. It's difficult. And then also I have custody of my other two children as well, and they're 9 and 12, and they like to go do things. And he some things are overwhelming for Jax, and we can't go to certain environments with certain noises or certain things, or if there's too much to focus on, or not enough to focus on, or waiting in the waiting room at the doctor's office. As soon as they say there's a 30-minute wait, I'm just like, this is about to be a 2 hour thing mentally. So there's just things that I didn't have to deal with the other two children that I am learning and growing as he grows with him. So it's just it's a new thing every day, and it's just it's he's not the problem. It's I feel like a lot of the way that people react to him that I think rubs me wrong, because I have tattoos and I have a certain perception, and I think I fit a narrative in their hand that they automatically preconceived that is not necessarily what it is at play. But it's not my part to make sure everyone understands, as long as he's comfortable in the environment that we're at. And if he's not comfortable, we leave. And juggling that and when to leave, and when that it starts harming my other children, also balancing, because if we have to go whenever we're at the sky zone or something with my other kids, that's like a punishment on them. So it's a lot that you have to juggle, especially with me being alone. I don't have a partner to like take one of them, or leave them to have the fun while I take, you know what I mean? So it's like a group thing that I never really anticipated. And I feel guilty sometimes, one way or another, that you never 100% get it. You just do 100% of what you can. So uh, it's just a learning in stride thing for me.
Understandable. Lori?
I think the biggest surprise to me, I kind of thought in the beginning that like once we got this diagnosis that we would easily find our tribe and our group of people that would support us and other parents that had been there and understand it. But the most judgmental people in the autism community are other people in the autism community. And I think it's because we're living such different lived experiences. Like all three of the parents that we're talking in here, we all have verbal children. We have children that are socializing and introducing and have activities in the world. And, profound autism doesn't look like that at all. And so there's a lot of people in this profound autistic community that almost like look at me like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't have any problems. Like, that shouldn't be an issue for you. And so I find it hard to kind of navigate that and to navigate the language around autism. There's so many people that, get so easily offended by, do you have an autistic son or a son with autism? The person-centered language and then there's the language around, like the puzzle pieces. There's so many people that get so upset with Autism Speaks and they don't like the puzzle pieces. And I'm like, there's so many things that you can do wrong just talking about your child. And I guess my personal opinion is if people are talking about autism, I'm happy. If we're educating the community about what's going on with all children that are facing the different qualities and disadvantages and challenges of children that are diagnosed with this global diagnosis, then it's a good thing. But I feel like it's constantly a battle.
Thank you, Lori. Sarah, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Well, I can tell you that I started off my career as an early childhood special educator, and I had a broad background of different kinds of disabilities and what that looked like. But 20 years ago, when you talked about autism, it was the like Rain Man kind of stereotype and called pervasive developmental disorder, and it didn't include children that might have a typical IQ or a higher level IQ. And uh, it was interesting for me because even being educated in the field, I had a really specific idea in my head of what autism looked like. And so my child actually got diagnosed later than a lot of other people who didn't have all the training and background that I had, because that's not what I was expecting it to look like. And the other thing is that as a parent, a lot of times your professional knowledge goes out the window because you look at your child with a different set of eyes. and it's all emotion and not fact and logic and research. And so, um, we were having some behavior problems when he was starting kindergarten. And I told my sister I thought it might be oppositional defiancy disorder or something because of the aggression. And she sat me down and she was like, I really think that he's on the spectrum and has some anxiety with that. And I was like, what? I'm a special ed teacher, don't tell me that. But I my bias from what I had been taught a long time ago really affected how I supported my child for a while, and I kind of had to regroup.
Thank you all for that. I know just in listening to that, we were talking about challenges, but one of the biggest things that I picked up on is how you all have been advocating for your children. Like, I feel like that's the constant thing that I was hearing. So I just want to thank you all for doing that for your kids and acknowledge that. So we know that every parent experiences stress, whether it's helping a kid with homework or paying bills these days, or helping siblings learn to get along with one another. While raising an autistic child, what do you find to be some of the greatest stressors in your home, and how do you try to work through those challenges? Starting with Lori.
So for me, it's been non-routine times, like when summer happens. Like, what do we do in the summer? Henry, by the time I felt like he was ready to actually go to a camp and maybe do a day camp and that he could handle it, or maybe I could send a therapist with him, he'd aged out of everything, because it wasn't an opportunity for him. And now, as he's getting older, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
he's going to graduate high school, and what happens after that? So I think it's the like when I have the school system to support us and I have the routine days, we've got it down. But when winter break happens and summer break happens and all of those details, it's a little overwhelming because the resources just aren't there.
So, what are some of the things that you do during that time?
Well, we've done a lot. We've puzzle pieced a lot together. In Lexington, we did have a disability camp that we tried once, and the children in this camp had different disabilities than Henry, and it really slowed him down. I think where he didn't get to have a full kind of camp experience, and so he didn't really enjoy it. So we did that one summer, and he didn't enjoy it. It was not his thing. And we've hired babysitters that are extremely hard to hire. And if you do find somebody that is actually skilled enough to care for your child and to deal with the big behaviors, they typically are going to charge you, $25 to $30 an hour, which is not reasonable. We are just now at that point where we're at the top of the Michelle B waiver list. And I'm like, wow, we could have really used that support when he was 7 years old, and now, like, I'm like, really, really, now you're going to put us at the top of the list where you can give us some resources. Like, it's so challenging. We're starting to have conversations about what the next steps are, and is it guardianship? And we do think that we'll have to deal with guardianship and what that looks like, and health trusts, and um, you know, disability, and is he going to live with us? Are we going to look at other options? Do we think that he has the employability, potential in the future? And there's just a lot of questions. I will say that to Jared that there's a lot of people that told me when Henry was your son's age that there were going to be so many things that weren't possible, and he's done most of those things. So you just never limit them, and you let them drive their own train, and push them and to do the things that make them happy. And Henry's doing really well. So I was told many times that Henry would never have a job. And I don't think he's going to cure cancer, y'all, so don't get excited. But I do think that, he will be employable in some way, and that he might not live with mom his whole life. So I'm optimistic, but we just take it day by day. That's what my mother gave me this advice a long time ago, is that things tend to work out. And if you just take it day by day, you kind of figure it out. And we still don't know what we're doing this summer, but we're taking it day by day and we're going to work it out.
Thank you. Jared?
Stressors at home. Uh,
Yes. So the question is, what do you find to be some of the greatest stressors in your home, and how do you try to work through those?
okay, so I myself have statistically not been the most routine or responsible person in the past, and Jax is holding me to a higher standard. So uh, uh, it's the overwhelming to keep the routine for me. You know what I mean? It's while having to other kids that also very much go against the grain on routine. So homework time is difficult because I need to dedicate time with each individual child while also juggling my BSW program in the midst of that, all while alone. So then cooking dinner, and we are a very texture focused food house. So it can't be too slimy, it can't be too cheesy, but it's got to be just cheesy enough. And we don't like this cereal, but this cereal tastes good, but it's shaped wrong, and you know, and so it's just kind of jumping through the hoops. So taking them all grocery shopping is a task. But I think it's elevated my other sons in ways that I never would have thought either. You know what I mean? So it's like they big brothered up real quick, and it makes my heart happy. You know what I mean? And we all help, and Jax helps them also. You know what I mean? Had like whenever I get up, I get Jax up because he's my other two kids' alarm clock. He'll go in there and make sure they get up. So I just, if they don't get up on the first alarm, I just kind of open the door and let Jax go in there and do his thing, and then all of a sudden they're wide up. So uh, another thing is I'm finding ways. So like I go to a lot of trainings, and I put myself in groups of people that can teach me things that help because I know I don't know all the answers. So I do, since with him being nonverbal, I use a lot of like Microsoft clip art pictures, and I tape them to things. So I don't have one of those devices that speak yet, but I'm on a list for that. But he will walk around and point at things now, pictures of things. So now like he can communicate, and I think that takes a lot of stress off of him also because you can tell whenever I don't understand, he gets frustrated. Uh, and discipline is different also. You have to completely discipline different between each kid, not only just because of age, but because of understanding. So he, like I said, he's very visual. So like I have this little toy stack that has 4 blocks on it. And every time I have to get onto him, I'll put a block on the stack so he can watch how close he is to timeout. And if he does something good, or if I say pick something up, I'll take a block off, and it's rewarding. So it's like I struggled a lot with potty training. He still kind of wears a diaper, right? It's very, very challenging. And for anybody that has a young child that's a boy that's like that, I found, I don't know, I put a ping pong ball in the toilet, and now it's a game. You know what I mean? So and immediately now I got him doing that part. You know what I mean? I don't know how I'm going to turn the other side of it into a game, but but I don't know, just trying you gotta roll with the punches. You just gotta learn the little ticks and tacks, you know what I mean? And that's my little buddy, so we're on the same side, and it's stressful though. It is stressful. It's a lot. So
Thank you for that. And thank you for the tip. I'll have to try that out as I'm potty training my 2-year-old. All right. Um, Sarah.
Well, Jared hit the nail on the head with food. Food is just one of the biggest struggles that I could possibly imagine. The limited diet and trying to make sure that we always have the right thing in the house. And then if we travel or go someplace, if we go and stay with a family for a holiday, do they have the right kind of cereal? Do they have the right kind of, Gatorade? Do they have like all this stuff that we have to think about a lot? That is huge. Um, and I think about it. So I'll lay down at night and think, do I have food for breakfast? Um, because it's like always pressing, and I will skip lunch sometimes when I'm working and not think about it. But you got a 13-year-old, they eat out of house and home anyway. But then to have like 8 foods that they eat, then that makes a big difference. Um, Traditional school was really a stressor for us. Um, every time I saw the school's name on my phone, I'm in meetings or whatever, and I see that, the name of the school come up, I just think, oh God, what is it now? Are they sending him home for the day? Is he hurt? What happened? And like I said, when he was young, he was an eloper, so I was worried about safety a lot. And I started off to be a public school teacher. That was the job that I wanted. And my mom was a public school teacher, and I always thought that we would strictly utilize the public school system, but it was not a good fit for us. And last year, after my son left the school building without telling anybody, and the school didn't know, then we had to regroup a little bit, and we shifted to homeschool, which worked out because I work from home most days. But it is very overwhelming to have a full-time job that you're paid for from an outside organization and to worry about your child getting the education that they need. But his safety and anxiety levels were my top priority. So pretty much, and parents all over will tell you this, everything that I thought I would do when I had children, I've had to regroup and figure out, okay, well, that's not going to work, even though I've thought that I was going to be doing that for the past 30 years. So now let's figure out what does work. And even, I've got two children, and my oldest son is only 2 years older, and he has a mellow personality, and he just rolls with the flow. And I was spoiled that I didn't have to make so many accommodations, but now I try and do, some of the same things with my younger son as my older son, and they just don't work. Um, and for me, and Jared mentioned this too, for me, one stressor is making sure that I'm giving both kids the attention and the support they need, because it's easy to fall down a rabbit hole and spend a lot more attention on one child that you think needs it to survive. But you have other people that you love and adore and want to spend that time on them. And it just feels like sometimes there's not enough hours in the day.
Thank you for that, Sarah. And I see we have a question in the chat. I know we have a space, and I'll let you all respond to that as well. I saw Lori had responded. So kind of going back to we had talked about, or Jared, you had mentioned the conversation about people stepping in and helping. Kind of moving on to that. So during those challenging times, have there been people around you who have tried to help or offer advice that has made the situation a little more challenging? And I'll start with you, Sarah.
Yes, I think a lot of people want to help when they know that you have a child with a disability, but they don't necessarily know how to. And I would say sometimes that the best thing to do is just ask instead of to say, this is what I will do to help. But at first when James was diagnosed, people would come up to me all the time and say things like, he doesn't look like he's autistic, or I'm sure that's not what it is, and things like that. And I just thought, what is the purpose of this discussion? This is an invisible disability. It's not like, hey, we parted his hair differently today, so that's why he doesn't look like he has autism. There's just not a way that a child is going to look. And if you've met one child with autism, you've only met one child with autism. Every kiddo is different, and they stem a different amount, or they have a different way that they stem. They mask in a different way. Their cognitive ability may be different. Their verbal ability may be different. My child is very verbal, but he is also very rude a lot of the times because he's so factual, and people really don't know how to take that. So they will say things to, like, they'll ask him a question. I told you he's a dancer. He had been in a competition, and a mom came up to him afterwards and it's like, she said, I just love watching you dance. It's so beautiful. And he looked at her and said, compliments make me uncomfortable. And he just walked off. And like, she really did not know how to handle that one. And she looked at me and she goes, are you going to let him say that? And I'm like, well, actually, yeah, because he was really honest with you and expressed his feelings, and that's what we've been working towards. But the rest of the world seems to want to discipline my child for things that they don't understand. And a lot of times I think it's generational, and maybe Lori and Jared, maybe you've noticed this, but different generations have different perceptions of disabilities and autism. And I notice it the most when I'm at church because I am around older generations there. Maybe, I've had gentlemen in their 70s or 80s come up to me. We're at a building with a lot of people. James will tell you, I don't like people. He has his couple of friends, but in general, I don't want to be around people. I'd rather be around a dog or, something else. But, he'll have a meltdown. I'll find a place where he can have a meltdown. And, somebody will come up to me and say something like, if I had acted that way when I was little, my mama would have worn me out with a spoon. And I'm like, oh, thank you. Well, you've completely changed my perspective on parenting, but by making that comment, I've learned so much. Um, Notice the sarcasm, but a lot of times those comments that people make thinking that they're helpful just make me feel bad about my parenting, make me embarrassed of the situation. Um, and if they don't know me and they don't know my child, I just really wish they would stay out of it, because it's not helping. And I spend so much time, and I tell my husband this all the time. I'm like, did I handle that right? Did I handle that situation right? Was that a battle I should have picked and I just let it go because, that wasn't the hill I wanted to die on? Or, am I being too easy? What am I doing? Am I doing a good job or not? And when random people I don't know come up to me and criticize me, it just, honestly, my self-esteem tanks, and I spend half my time worried that I'm not the right mom to be raising a child with these challenges. Um, there are ways that others can help, and I know we're talking about that in a little bit, but just unsolicited parenting advice is not the way to go.
Thank you, Sarah. Lori?
Could you repeat the question? I just got all into listening to Sarah.
It's okay. That is the story of my life.
Yeah.
So during those challenging times, have you had people around you who have tried to help, or offer advice that made the situation more challenging?
Yes. Um, we have actually, and we've actually kind of cut some family members pretty much out of our social life. They're still our family. We love them. But they just have absolutely no um empathy, or they're not interested in educating themselves about what makes Henry work. So it's a lot like what Sarah said, that um, if I have more respect for my son and his needs, and creating an environment that's going to be functional for him, than shaping him to be functional for them. And that, one thing that I think has changed a whole lot, Henry's 15, and in the world of autism, I feel like that's pretty old. Because like the world has changed so much in 10 years. And when we very first got him diagnosed, everything was very different. What people weren't talking about it in the schools like they are now. And now his peers at school, we can say to his peers, oh, Henry has autism. And they're like, oh, well, we got that. He probably has a little anxiety. He probably needs some help with this. And, like our kiddos get it, and like Sarah said, with the generational side of things, like, my parents, it took a while. Like it really took a while for them to not understand that I wasn't spoiling my child. I was giving him positive reinforcements to get him to do the right thing and teaching him the difference between right and wrong. And they're like, Laura, you can only give him so many Legos. Like you're just spoiling him. And it's like, and and not to repeat Sarah again, but like I am a very different parent than I always thought that I would be. I thought that it would be about discipline. I thought that it would be about, no, we don't do this. And instead it's, yes, great job. You did this. And so everything is just, it's kind of flipped upside down. And, you know, yeah, yeah, I will say that I am beyond the phase of, this sounds awful, but I'm beyond the phase of really putting too much into what other people think. Like I'm at that point now, I'm like, well, shame on you for not knowing better. Shame on you for judging anyone that's having, a hard day like that. Like they might have a diagnosis of autism, or they might just be having some PMS. Who knows what's going on with them? But let's just have a little grace in the world for people that are having a hard time. It might just be some anxiety, like let's just give people some grace. And so, yeah, yeah, I'm not judging myself as a parent anymore. I did for a long time.
Thank you so much for that, Lori. Um, Jared?
Both of them said it perfect. I can relate with the unsolicited parenting advice. My son has wrestling, and this happened just last week. A person came up and said, "That's why the kids need their mom." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm aware. You know what I mean? That's not an option." But so thank you for that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, I didn't know. But uh, but another thing is with my son, he's 4. Everything is not autism. At the end of the day, he's also still 4. He is a child. You know what I mean? And I think that's bless my mom's heart. I love her to death, but she's like, you leave that baby alone. He can't help it. And it's like, Mom, he's hitting your TV with the broom right now. He can help it. It's gonna be fine. We're gonna take the broom. It's like you let that baby have the broom. No, we're gonna take the broom. You know what I mean? Thank you, Mom. And then I got to go to Papa's house, and he's like, "Well, you need to just whoop that boy's butt." You know what I mean? It's like, "Well, thank you, Papa, but we also don't crank our cars up in the front anymore. I don't think I'm gonna do that." You know what I mean? So, uh, it's just a learning experience. I feel like I said this on every single question. You know what I mean? I'm right there with Lori. I don't need validation from anybody for the job I'm doing. I know that because I'm there and I'm doing it. You know what I mean? And I know that my kids are happy because of how much I see them smile. So I don't have to seek outside validation from people that are unaware of the situation whenever my kids bring me things home they made at school, or Jax brings over something and wants me to help him put it together and fix it, because I'm the one that's there for the holidays and the Father's Days and the birthdays and all of those things, all of the days, even the regular days. You know what I mean? So like you said, I don't try to go head to head with anybody anymore. And to be honest, like if people want to help, amazing. If people don't want to help, that's also fine. So I'm not out here soliciting sorries or pity me's or anything like that, because there's nothing wrong. There isn't anything wrong. I have 3 kids. You know what I mean? Like if it wasn't for this talk right here, I wouldn't even say I have 2 children and one with autism. I would just say, hey, I have my 3 boys. So it's only situations like this, bringing awareness and advocating for them, in which that you're going to hear about it. Because outside of that, that's just my buddy Jax. That's all there is to it. So it's I don't know how else to say it other than that.
And
Think you all said it perfectly. Oh, Sarah?
I'll add this in too. Jared said, Jax is 4, so he's going to do things that are 4. I've got a middle schooler right now, and I'm typically developing, but I know that I wasn't necessarily a peach to be around in middle school. And my mother will definitely attest to the fact that it was kind of hard to live with me. And so a lot of days I'm sitting around like trying to figure things out. I'll call my sister and I'll be like, okay, was this autism or is this because of puberty? Because I'm having a hard time like pulling those two things apart. What is nasty behavior because he's 13 and his voice has changed? And what is nasty behavior because he's anxious and he's striking out against me? And so some of those normal developmental experiences, it's hard to tease out the difference between them.
I love the fact that you step back, Sarah, and ask, because I think that that is a big part of just parenting in general, is sometimes we have to ask. And kind of speaking of that, oh, Lori, did you have something you wanted to add?
I was just gonna say, Jared, just watch out. Puberty's rough. It's rough. It is rough.
So
So
speaking on the support piece, and I know someone had dropped something in the chat about childcare providers, but looking at just in general, what do you think about what do you think, hold on, what are some of the things that friends or family could do to support you? And I'll start with Jared.
Uh, Ask questions. You know what I mean? Understand, like not saying that I am an expert on autism, but I am an expert on jacks. You know what I'm saying? So like ask me. Uh that or educate yourself. You know what I'm saying? It's like my mom will I love like I want to be very clear, love her to death. Love her to pieces. You know what I'm saying? But Google is accessible by everybody. You know what I mean? Like if you don't understand, like and you're bored, you know what I mean? Maybe don't doom scroll. Look up a peer-reviewed article on something every now and then. You know what I mean? Because that's what I replaced almost all my social medias with just trying to educate myself because a single dad thing is difficult for me. You know what I mean? Like being an adult before I had all my kids at home was difficult for me. So I'm getting everything together at one time. It seems like so. I don't know. Like just asking is a huge thing. I feel like it shows respect and everything. You know what I mean? I don't care if anybody asks. It's just like how I used to be. Like you can ask me to do anything, but when you start telling me to do stuff, you're probably gonna not get what you want. So it's the way the delivery, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? You can inquire about something rather than correct me on something. And I'm not saying I'm not ever wrong. I am wrong frequently, and I learn frequently. It's something new every day. You know what I mean? And I'm aware of that because as soon as I become unteachable, is as soon as I'm not going to be the best dad that I can be. So. Uh, just work. I'd like people to work with me and not for me because I am always going to be actively engaged in my son's life, and I would like to be there every step of the way because at the end of the day, I feel like you know what I mean. I value help, but it is as of right now, it is my say. So I want him to be comfortable, and if he's not comfortable, I'm not comfortable.
Lori, did you have anything you wanted to add?
My answer is very similar. Like when you asked the question, the very first words that came to my mind, it's educate yourself. Like if you can, if once my parents started reading books and started realizing that I wasn't just coming up with these things, that masking is a real thing and that stimming has a real purpose and going through all these things that they'd heard me say before, but then they started educating themselves. And while I would like to say that they could support me by, because I used to be kind of told how they were going to help me. They were going to help by cleaning my house, which sounds wonderful. But you know what? As soon as they clean your house and they move your son's phone charger, or they put the thing in the wrong place, or they, like that doesn't help you because then it causes chaos. Or if they grocery shop and they buy the wrong ramen noodles, that doesn't help you. Like there's so many things that it's just hard, like respite and having a break. Yes, like now we can do that a little bit more. But we went for years that we couldn't leave our son with anybody else. So they couldn't help us in that way. But we always got judged for the things that they thought they could help us with that we denied. So educating themselves, asking the questions, how can I help you? Because sometimes it's things that they wouldn't even think about, like, could you run to Target and go get some Velcro pant or Velcro shoes for me because I cannot drag this child through the store, like it could be just something really, really basic. So very, very similar answer to Jared.
Sarah?
When people talk about autism in the media, and we've heard a lot of talk about autism in the media this past year, they really focus on the negatives. We've heard speeches by people in power talking about this, a child with autism will never play baseball or have a job or things like that. What people often forget is that there are a lot of strengths associated with kiddos who have autism as well. Um, and I think that for me, I wish people would think about talking about strengths instead of just negatives all the time. That would make a huge difference. One of the worst days of the year for anybody who has a child with a disability is going in for their IEP meeting in the public school system. And you sit down across from a table with like 5 educators and specialists and diagnosticians, and they're going to spend an hour or even 2 hours telling you everything that your child doesn't do right. What makes me respect those individuals even so much more is if they can tell me the things that my child does well. If they can start off by talking about, we know him and these are amazing things about him. And the same thing with the people in my family. If they can focus on strengths as well as challenges, that's a huge boost to our family as a whole, and not just talking about the negatives. Um, Lori talked a little bit about respite. Um, if somebody wanted to do something amazing for me, it would be give me 2 hours off, a 2 hour break to myself. But they can't just be somebody that my child's never met. My child is not going to go someplace with somebody that they've never met. So they have to be a part of our life in order to do that. My dad, for the very first time, he did not deal with my kiddos very well when they were in diapers. Yeah, he was not an infant toddler person. But once they got old enough that they were toilet trained really well, he started taking them to his house for 1 week in the summer just to give my husband and I a break. And that was like the most amazing thing ever. And thinking about um, those ways that you could give somebody a chance to spend adult time doing things is a big deal to a lot of our families because respite is hard.
Thank you for that, Sarah. Is there one of you all who would like to answer the question in the chat, which is, can you please share your advice for childcare providers? Most of us have big heart, most of us, our hearts are bigger than our skills.
I'll say something on it. Uh, I know it's a lot, and I know you got your hands full because you got 15 to 20 other ones. I could only imagine. But it just patience, or they're going to teach you patience. You know what I mean? It's like praying for it. And it's going to put you in a position where you have to learn it the hard way. So it just got to take a minute. And I know it's a lot, and I appreciate every single thing that you do because I could only imagine.
Laura, one of the biggest things I can say with childcare providers, because I do a lot of training in the childcare community on autism and other disabilities, but really having teachers sit down and take the time to meet with the parents, even as soon as they transition into the room, and just say what works with the kiddos at home, what are successful strategies that you're using, thinking about discipline for a lot of children in with autism is very different than what a lot of discipline systems are for childcare programs. So thinking about how to utilize positive reinforcement, like Lori talked about, instead of a disciplinary reaction. But really, if you can initially set up that relationship with the parents and get a lot of the information from them on what works with their child, because like Jared said, he might not be an expert on autism, but he's an expert on Jax. And for every child that comes into the classroom, the techniques are going to be a little bit different because the diagnosis is a little bit different. Some kids may hardly ever stim, while others it may be continual and it may be self-harm related. And so you have to make sure that the child doesn't hurt themselves. Or other kiddos may be nonverbal, or some may be extremely verbal, but not necessarily articulating so that the provider can understand. Others may love to be around a group of people, but don't know how to follow the social norms when they're in a group of people, and others may just not want to be around people at all. So really finding out the details on that child from the family and saying, how can I make this situation as best as possible for them is the best place to start.
Thank you both. So we're coming up on time. Is there anything that you all would like to add before we depart?
I would like to add that I am very fortunate that I have an only child. And so I don't have multiple children to juggle like the two of you. And that I have a partner, a husband that is amazing. And so Jared, you're doing a rock star job. Like you're doing a rock star job and don't ever forget it. Um, and I'll drop to Owensboro if you ever need respite.
Hang on now. Hang
Ah,
on.
I'll do it.
He works with my sister. She can do the respite care.
Uh,
I did want to say I just appreciate everybody that came to this because it makes me happy that people are interested in it because I don't come across that as often as I would like. So just being in here, I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you three for joining us. So everyone, Face It does have a stakeholder group that specializes in reducing child abuse for children with disabilities. The group meets virtually every other month. And if you are interested in participating, you can reach out to us through our Face It website, which is faceitabuse.org. And we can make sure that that is dropped in the chat for you all. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. I've enjoyed listening to all of you all, and you're all rock stars in my eyes. I can only imagine. So.